Final Fantasy VII Rebirth just solved a long-standing JRPG dilemma, and they solved it by doing this. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's backtrack a bit. The music from Japanese role-playing games, more commonly known as JRPGs, are some of the most universally beloved soundtracks in all of gaming. Final Fantasy, Persona, Dragon Quest, Xenoblade Chronicles, and Chrono Trigger, just to name a few. But there's always been one thing that kind of bothered me the more I played JRPGs, and I've played hundreds of them. Hi, and welcome to my channel. My name is Diwa. I'm a professional music producer, but I've also been playing JRPGs since the NES era. And although I've always enjoyed every little moment I had with it, there is one issue I started to notice. And this was an issue that started off as benign, but slowly chipped in to something that now has become bothersome to me. I'm talking about the music, but not in the way that you're thinking. And at the end of the video, I will explain to you how I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Remake changed JRPGs forever. The audio in a video game can make or break our sense of immersion. A wrongly timed sound effect or unsynchronized dialogue immediately feels wrong. And when it comes to music, a mismatched tone choice, such as a comedic style of song used in a supposedly dramatic scene, can immediately ruin the experience. But it's not even the quality of the music composition or arrangement I'm talking about. In fact, I absolutely love video game music from JRPGs. I listen to them daily. I even perform them live. No, my issue lies with something else. Now, music and art is subjective, and not everyone may agree that this is a problem that needs a solution, and that's totally fine. But for those of us who are looking for a more modern method, Rebirth may have given us our answer. I'm referring to a lesser-known aspect of video game development called music implementation. Let's talk about this. Music implementation is the process of placing music, both short and long forms, in specific events, in-game locations, gameplay activities, and making sure that said events trigger the playback of the music. Now, it may sound like a simple responsibility, but trust me, it can get quite complicated. If you enter a boss fight, the assigned boss battle theme should start playing. And if your party won the battle, the specific victory theme should also play. Same goes for when you pick up power-ups, open a treasure chest, or interact with a guitar you found in an NPC's house. There is someone, or a team of people, assigned to implement the musical events that trigger with these actions. This job position is usually referred to as sound designer or audio designer. A bit similar to sound designers in movies. But the difference is, movie sounds are linear and static, while gaming is dynamic and happening in real time. So the proper sounds should be implemented with every live player interaction. With excellent sound implementation, the gaming experience feels immersive, organic, and smooth. You won't even notice that something is off. On the other hand, if something is wrong, you immediately notice it. Badly implemented audio feels negatively distracting and interrupts the flow of immersion. And a recently released title where this was a glaring issue was in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. YouTuber Max Monado has an excellent video about this.
With over 200 songs, Xenoblade 3 changes its background music very often. But there's a big downside to this. Because the songs interrupt each other so frequently, it can be near impossible to hear some of the best parts of this OST.
Now, if you're not familiar with the gameplay loop of classic JRPGs, there's usually a large focus on open exploration areas where you also encounter normal battles and boss fights. These areas are also where you grind battles to max out your experience points, therefore spending a lot of time switching between exploring and fighting. In between these areas are towns where you rest, buy items, and you may also encounter story sequences. Now, back in the olden days of JRPGs, battles interrupted your field exploration at random, with the battle music immediately cutting in the field music that was playing, and you're even taken to a separate battle screen interface. You didn't even see the actual enemies on the map because of limited graphical memory at the time. Other games like Chrono Trigger mixed things up a bit by allowing you to see the enemies, but the music implementation remained similar. You explore, the field theme plays, you enter a battle, the battle music interrupts and plays from the beginning of the song. You exit battle, the field music starts over from the very beginning, again and again and again. Most of the time, you don't even get to hear the good parts of each song because of how quickly the events happen and get interrupted again, unless you artificially prolong the battle just to hear more of the music. And I have done this a lot, but it definitely loses some immersion points. It doesn't feel organic. I just don't like to hear the same 5-bar intros of the music for the 100th time, just for it to be interrupted again by the next musical event. You may even end up finishing the entire game without ever hearing the entirety of the battle theme, simply because the game didn't provide an organic way for you to even hear it. And it was fine in the beginning. That's just how the audio of older JRPGs was implemented back then. There have been subtle changes through the years, such as having the exploration music muted but still playing in the background during fights. And when the battle is over, the exploration music resumes from where it left off. But the main idea still remained for quite a while and became the standard implementation system for most JRPGs, both classic and recent. But through the years, the more I experienced this, the more JRPGs I played, the more I became bothered by it. But I didn't know what the proper solution was. That is, until I beat Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth. Yes, Remake did it before, but Rebirth gloriously expanded it tenfold. And yes, you can mitigate this issue by seeking out the officially released soundtracks associated with the game and listen to the full music out of context. I myself have done that many times. But wouldn't it be cool for you to get the full experience of the music written by the amazing composers entirely within the confines of the game? Take a look, for example, in the opening Grasslands region. Gameplay spoilers ahead. You first hear the iconic Final Fantasy VII main theme in its glorious new arrangement play first. You explore, you find a group of enemies, you engage them in battle. What happens? The instrumentation and arrangement of the music quickly transitions to a more dynamic, battle-appropriate style. But if you notice, the overarching melody and musical structure is uninterrupted. Or in the Cosmo Canyon region, where it's even more obvious how smooth the flow between battles and exploration is. By the way, that fiddle-heavy arrangement of the main theme is just genius. Let me know in the comments if you want me to make a dedicated video focusing on all the different styles and genres of music they used in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's not even limited to the open world, but also in some indoor dungeons such as the Mithril Mines. It's such a simple implementation idea, and this is how they pull it off. The moment you enter the open world, 2 audio tracks featuring different arrangements of the same composition immediately starts playing. An exploration music and a battle music. One is muted and one is at full volume. Both pieces follow the same exact tempo, melodic structure, and timing. It's all just a matter of quickly fading in and fading out at the appropriate player-triggered event, such as exploration and battle. Again, exploration, you enter battle, and the music quickly transitions in and out. Now, this method isn't exactly original to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Modern Fire Emblem games implemented a similar method. But there's something to be said about the unpredictability of a player's decisions during a freely flowing open-world game exploration. Rebirth certainly made this feature feel more dynamic and immersive, but most importantly, organic. The end result? Maximum immersion. It feels very modern, and I welcome more and more games, not just JRPGs, in implementing this style of smooth musical transitions that stems from creating unified musical arrangements from the ground up where appropriate. You also get to hear more of the music from start to finish, depending on when you entered and exited battle. But the point is, you are never denied this listening pleasure because it doesn't interrupt the listening experience during gameplay. You can even continue singing along to the iconic melodies in and out of battle without interruption. It's just so smooth. And I'm not alone in having this opinion. Video game composer Garrett Williamson, whose work includes Omega Strikers and PUBG, has a lot of praises to give about Rebirth's music, including implementation, calling it a masterclass in video game music. More importantly, this gives us gamers more music to enjoy overall, as each area now has a corresponding exploration and battle theme attached to it. And whether you agree or disagree with my analysis, you can't deny that we, video game music lovers, have won with this factor alone. And this is how Final Fantasy VII Rebirth leveled up the music of JRPGs. At least in my opinion. But what do you think? Do you prefer the more old-school method of audio implementation? Or are you now a fan of the Rebirth style? Let us all know in the comments. Now watch this next video for more content about video game music.